Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more.
Welcome to Compass Points, a podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, and just about anything else that grabs our attention. I'm Scott Barker, the editor of Compass. We're a subscription-based website and newsletter where we report on all these topics and more. You can find us at CompassKnox.com, joined by my Compass co-founder, Jesse Mayshark. Welcome, Jesse. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well for several reasons, but one of them is that we are almost at the end of January here, and I have been observing what people call dry January, and it's almost over. So
you're heading into wet February.
That's right. I mean, I'm always happy when January is over just because it's January, but there's an added reason to look forward to this weekend.
Well, that's good because I typically just hate February. February is my least favorite month. So,
well, at least it's short.
Yes, but it's good that you found a reason to look forward to it.
That's right.
I might need to take notes on that. So, anyway, we're recording this in the opulent studios of Barbarian Productions in Rocky Hill, where Lord Seth Barber, the esteemed and intrepid engineer and producer, reigns supreme. Seth, how's it going?
I mean, the weather is the weather, I guess. I don't know what else to do right now because it was a big whiff on last week. I don't remember what I said, but what the weatherman was telling us versus what really happened didn't seem to line up.
Let's be honest, we got lucky last week.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
we dodged a bullet and we got another
You
bullet.
look at what happened in Mississippi
Sure.
and Memphis and Nashville. I mean, I have friends in Nashville who I think still don't have power now. So
Yeah.
that ice storm was serious. So I was perfectly happy for that one to be a whiff as far as we were concerned.
I agree 100%, but we're doing another. It's Friday when we're taping, and everything's supposed to start between our taping and release of this. So
Yep, some snow.
It might snow.
So,
I don't know. I give up on predicting this part of our weather around here.
Yeah, yes, it would be dangerous to say it will snow.
I've become like the stated rule on this kind of weather in this neighborhood or in our neck of the woods has become. Sure, I'll do a couple of items to make sure if the worst of the worst does happen. I'll do a little bit of prepping, if you will, but I'll wait to freak out until it actually starts happening.
Yeah,
because it's just so properly inconsistent that who knows. So got a few extra loaves of bread they're in the freezer that we got to work through now, but it'll be all right.
Well, and you can actually walk to a supermarket.
I can from here. I can to whether they're open or not. So that will be the question if we get bad. But yeah, and we've done it. I've done it in the past. I've walked over to that shopping center in 6 inches of snow, like from a couple years ago when we had a bigger snowstorm. But
well, I mean, anybody who stocked up ahead of last week's storm probably still has a lot of what they stocked up on. So that should carry everybody through this weekend.
House for sure.
Well, one way or the other, we hopefully we'll get through the weekend just fine, even if it does snow. So, we've already talked about the weather, so that's one of the things we were going to talk about later. But we've already talked about it.
Check.
So check that box. We'll also talk about two locals who were in the national news this week: Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs and Beers founder Ashley Capps. We'll also talk about the new zoning proposals for the Unified Development Ordinance that the county is looking at. I think I first look at those this past week. Also, last week, the county commission was going to consider a couple of immigration-related things. They didn't, but that didn't stop anybody from talking about it. So they talked about it a whole lot on Thursday at the county commission meeting. We'll start out though with Friday morning's protest. The students, high school students in Knox County schools, organized a walkout at the schools and a downtown protest of the immigration crackdown. And Jesse, you were there, so tell us about what all went on.
Yeah, I was curious to see how many people were going to show up for it because, it is a Friday morning during school. And school officials had said that they respect students' rights to express themselves, but also, they can't endorse people walking out of school. So there may be some disciplinary actions in some of these schools to come. Presumably the students were aware of that. It was a very big crowd, especially because, it's cold today. I'm going to go. I mean, there were many hundreds of people in the crowd, mostly young people. There were some adults as well. And I think it's safe to say there were 1,000 or so people. I mean, the parade, they came across from World's Fair Park, walked across the pedestrian bridge over Henley Street, and then down to Market Street and turned right and went down to the city county building where they all kind of, as more and more people kept arriving there, the crowd just kind of swelled through the whole plaza in front of the city county building and across the street. It ran for about 4 solid city blocks while the march was going on. So I estimated about 250 people per block. It's a lot. It was a big crowd. A lot of mostly holding anti-ICE, pro-immigration signs. Your kind of normal array of chants like "Hey, hey, ho, ho, ICE has got to go." That kind of the things that you hear at such protests, and people seemed very spirited. This was there's been this discussion, including from our own Congressman Tim Burchett this past week, in talking about anti-immigration protests, said what he always says, this complete falsehood about protesters being paid. This is something Burchett just repeats every time there's a protest. There's no evidence of protesters being paid. WBIR actually fact-checked Burchett on that this past week and, kind of asked him for evidence, and they just kind of said, oh, well, there's been reports of it, but didn't actually cite anything. Definitely, I don't think anybody was paying these high school kids. One of my own children actually was in this march, which I didn't know for sure he was going to do it. He had mentioned that it was a possibility he and his friends would go to it. And I'm pretty sure nobody's paying him. I didn't pay him. I'll tell you that. But I also didn't discourage him because I do actually support young people getting civically involved, even if it might get them some sort of debit from the school system. So yeah, it didn't have, I wasn't able to stay for the whole thing because I had to come out here to Seth's studio. But I was texting with somebody I knew who did kind of stay till it ended. And I guess, a few people did get up to speak once they were all there, but I don't really think anybody could hear them. There was no sound system or anything. So mostly it was just about the visual presentation of getting a whole bunch of people together and doing these chants and just kind of signaling that they are not happy with what they're seeing in immigration enforcement across the country.
Yeah. And one of the things is, we haven't seen obviously the type of enforcement that they have in Minneapolis, but, that every time you see something, you have the killings in Minneapolis this past month, and that produces a lot of fear, in people. So Yep,
and we are seeing things like, there's the one well-publicized case of a guy who was basically grabbed by enforcement agents at a construction site in Hardin Valley, which has led to some legal struggles over, whether the records from that will be made public. And then also there are actually 2 American citizens from one of those construction sites where there was enforcement who have been charged with impeding ICE agents, because allegedly when the agents showed up on the construction site, the guys, I assume they were like the supervisors who were there, but they sent a text to all their workers saying, ICE is here, get out of here, and even like park their trucks to try to block the agents from coming onto the property. So we have people in Knox, we have both immigrants living in Knox County who definitely have been taken by ICE, and also we have Knox County residents or East Tennessee residents facing criminal charges for their efforts to, I guess help out the guys who were working for them.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply nothing had happened here. Just the scale is not
right. We're not seeing it on every street corner the way they have been in Minneapolis. For sure.
And there is the fear that could happen here. There's a large presence in Memphis right now, because that's more of a crime fighting thing, they say, than an immigration enforcement thing. But
but they are doing pretty intensive immigration checks there too.
There, yeah,
including what we've seen in some other cities where they're doing what very much appears to be racial profiling. In Memphis, lots of people being stopped, traffic stops that seem to be based on their ethnic appearance, and
some that you've seen videos of and recordings of, where they'll say, it's your accent,
right?
That's where were you born? I'm asking because of your accent. And strange that is tolerable in the United States nowadays.
Well, and is certainly the subject of various ongoing litigation around the country.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this past week, after the killing of Alex Pretty in Minneapolis last weekend, the concern has ratcheted up, and I'm not sure how much of a role that played in County Commission's meeting this week, but I think it played some. The County Commission was going to consider one ordinance about immigration and have a presentation from another commissioner about immigration, and both of them got delayed. Of course, the meeting had already been delayed. The meeting was scheduled for Monday because of the storm. Was rescheduled for Thursday, and by the time Thursday came around, the commissioners who were bringing these forward decided to postpone. One of them was Rhonda Lee, who she had the substantive measure, which would have been an expression of support for a bill in the Tennessee House of Representatives that would require school systems to collect immigration information status information on their students, and give them the option of either barring them from enrollment or charging tuition if they so chose. The Senate has passed that bill. It's still in the House. It got stuck in committee at the end of the last session, and Lee wants it to move. She wants it to be approved, and she says that the school system or the county commission has a role to play because they approve the funding for the schools.
And the school board, of course, voted the opposite direction in December.
Yeah, the school board opposes the law, and you can kind of understand why, because of the, whether or not you agree that that's kind of a bad thing to do, but it also would add significant costs to an administrative burden to the school system. They're not trained to ascertain the immigration status of anybody, so and they'd have to do that, and they got 60,000 students. I mean, it's not like it's a dozen. It's 60,000, and they would have to ascertain the status of everyone, whether they are new immigrants to the United States or they're seventh generation Tennesseans. It doesn't matter. You have to prove that you were here legally. And
and like we talked about last week, that's one of several bills the legislature is considering this session that could push those kinds of immigration enforcement roles, which have typically not been roles for local government at all, down to a whole range of local officials and agencies, from school systems to county clerks to, the county health departments. Like we might be seeing this in multiple areas.
Yeah, and the other immigration related item that was originally going to be on Commission's agenda was Commissioner Andy Fox was going to make a presentation on he titled it the Christian view on illegal immigration. And
biblical, right? Didn't he say he used the word biblical? Like he was going to explain to everybody the truth of the Bible, which he thinks other people who disagree with him are getting wrong.
Yes, and that's prompted from back in October. There was a commission meeting, and where they were going to consider basically forcing nonprofits that receive county funds to prove that they weren't that their programs did not benefit undocumented immigrants, and that got postponed. But a lot of people spoke out against it, who used biblical references to make their case, and
they were making the case that they believed their interpretation of Christianity is such that it calls for people to welcome and care for immigrants, refugees,
right? And Fox's view is a little different.
Yeah,
and he wanted to rebut them, and so that he was going to have this presentation, but both he and Lee decided to defer. Lee said that she was going to wait until they see what happens with the bill in the legislature. One of the issues that lawmakers have with that bill is that it could cost the state $1.2 billion in federal funding, because the Supreme Court has ruled that you have to educate, public schools have to educate all students in their areas, not without regard of their immigration status.
Right. They are not actually allowed under federal law as established by that decision. Mm-hmm. They're not allowed to ask for
right. Yeah. So
information.
Members of the House, of course, I guess members of the Senate really didn't care last year, but members of the House are a little concerned about that. So they're waiting to see. They've been in talks with the Trump administration about what would happen if they actually did pass it. And
yeah, I mean, it's an interesting sort of catch-22 because the real goal here with and the Tennessee legislators who have proposed this law are completely transparent about this. They're trying to get a law passed that they know they're going to get sued over, that they hope they can take to the Supreme Court and get the current Supreme Court to overturn that precedent and allow states to not educate students who can't prove they're in the country legally. But in the course, in order to pass a law to do that, they basically have to break the existing law, and federal funding is only supposed to go to states that are compliant with federal law. So what they're trying to do is get the Trump administration, which the Trump administration, I think, also would probably like that precedent overturned. So they're trying to get the Trump administration to say, okay, we won't penalize you for passing this law by withholding your federal funding, which I don't know. I guess we'll see what the cynical or maybe realistic part of me thinks, well, surely the Trump administration will figure out a way to say, yes, go ahead and do this because it's what they want too. Mm-hmm. But it's going to have to be a little bit of fancy footwork to say that you blatantly violating federal law is not going to cause us to pull your federal funding.
Well, for all of the for all of the effort that Lee and Fox had put into these things, like I said, they decided to postpone them. Lee's is going to be postponed for 90 days. Fox's for 30 days. Lee said that she wanted to see what the legislature was going to do with the bill in question. Fox was a little more cagey about why he decided to postpone his presentation. He said he told me for a variety of reasons. The only one that he specified, and he refused to specify any others. The only one he specified was that the young Republicans were going to be had an event Thursday night and could not be there to support him in his effort. Now, there were plenty of people there in opposition.
Right. Basically, his cheerleading squad couldn't show up.
Yeah, and but his detractors sure did. There were about a dozen people who signed up to speak. Not all ended up speaking because, like I said, they'd already removed these from the agenda. But there were pretty much equal numbers speaking on Lee's proposal and on Fox's presentation that he didn't make. But and they especially on Fox's, appealed to the religious aspect of it. And when Fox spoke, he got some jeers from the crowd. Especially he made one comment that when he said that the United States was founded as a Christian nation. That it got a lot of catcalls from the crowd who are, actually better informed, I think.
It was founded as a Christian nation. They just forgot to say so.
Yeah, and but anyway, so that was public forum. Members of the public can speak on anything, any topic, anytime. It wasn't. These had been removed from the agenda. Which typically means commission's not going to talk about it. But they did.
Well, and I think it's just a sign that, this entire issue, the issue of our large undocumented immigrant population, this huge and very aggressive mass deportation campaign by the Trump administration, the aggressive and often violent tactics that we're seeing used by immigration agents all over the country and certainly in Minneapolis. I mean, this has just driven this to the top of the public mind at sort of all levels of government. We're seeing our state government try to pass these whole range of immigration bills, even though, of course, traditionally this has been an area left to federal jurisdiction, and now it's coming all the way down to the local level where people are wanting to pass things here or talk about things here. I mean, it's kind of all consuming at the moment.
Yeah, it is. And but obviously they didn't vote on anything, they didn't resolve anything. But Courtney Durrett, Democratic County Commissioner, kind of called out Lee for what she termed political grandstanding.
Which is not the first time that other commissioners have accused Lee of political grandstanding.
That's true, and Commissioner Damon Rawls likewise called out Fox for kind of trying to introduce this whole religious aspect into it. In fact, he was kind of pointing out that there are 11 of us commissioners and 70 or so people in the audience, and every one of us has a different interpretation of every single line in the Bible. So, but Fox is soldiering on. He said he will bring it back up in February. So, we'll see what happens then.
Well, Fox likes a good argument.
Well, he is an attorney after all. So, making arguments is part of his DNA. So, we'll see what he has to say in full in February. So, which is later this month, since this is going to air in February, so that's good. Another development that happened last week that was not immigration related was the county's consultant on developing the Unified Development Ordinance made presentations on the zoning aspect of that. The Unified Development Ordinance is, as it kind of the name kind of implies, it's going to consolidate all of the county's zoning, land use, transportation regulations into one document, one thing. So it's a huge undertaking. They are the only bite that they've taken that they have shared publicly is the zoning and land use aspect of it. It's probably the most important, or the one that most people would be concerned about. And they had presentations this past week on. They did it via Zoom. They did to the Planning Commission, one for the general public and one for county commissioners. And what they've done is they've gone through the Knox County zoning code, and they've redefined various zones. Zoning districts is what the reference to them, and consolidated some. It's real technical, so it's going to be hard to get this across, but basically, whatever your property is zoned now will pretty much stay the same, but there are some differences. There were some consolidations where there were types of zoning that were similar, so they went ahead and combined them. There was some commercial zones, for example, and they did create one new zone, which nothing will be zoned this at the beginning. They'll have to go through the zoning process, but it's called a traditional neighborhood district, and those are going to be more walkable, mixed-use areas that really aren't easy to do under the current code. The They did that. They also looked at land use and the acceptable uses for those properties. And one thing that you don't realize, there were over 400 acceptable uses of property in Knox County. And that, when I talk about that, these were things like defining dwellings, defining what an office is, defining what a commercial enterprise is, defining what an adult business is, what is, all these different definitions. There were more than 400 of them. They a lot of them were redundant. They've winnowed them down to about 105 now. So they've got those they presented.
So you're
those.
not actually getting fewer allowed uses. They've just consolidated the way they describe those uses.
Right? Yeah. They same uses, fewer categories, I think is a good way to put it. Anyway, they made these presentations. Now, this is part of a long-term process. It's the Advanced Knox process, which is a couple of years old now. It's the final phase of it. The other portions of the UDO will come out in the next few months, and they'll be having these meetings monthly up until the summer. This summer, Planning Commission and County Commission will be charged with adopting it. So
right, like as we said a couple of weeks ago, County Mayor Glenn Jacobs very much wants to see this adopted. I mean, this is a major product and legacy of his administration. He wants to see this adopted and approved before he leaves office at the end of August.
Before Jacobs leaves office, and also there's going to be some turnover on County Commission.
Yep.
And so, the new commissioners would have to be brought up to speed, if it lasts beyond the election. So, that is one of the things that Orion Planning Design, which is the county's consultant, one of the things that they emphasize is that they're still drafting this. This is not set in stone. This is what they've come up with so far. And anybody who's interested in this can go to advancedknox.org and take a look at it. I mean, these presentation materials were there. It's very dense. It's very complicated. I mean, they have a chart there that says this is the current zoning, current zoning district. This is going to be the new one. This is what's changing and why, and all these things. They've got these charts there. They've got charts on the uses, all those things. So you can go there and not only look at that, you can also give your feedback. So, highly recommend that. I mean, when we report on things like this, we can barely scratch the surface. Our story last week on this meeting was about 1,000 words long and could easily have been 10,000 words. If, to go through all the different, proposals and changes, we just can only, give some examples and give some quotes, and that was it. So, strongly encourage anyone who is intensely interested to go to advancedknox.org and take a look at it. I mean, the commissioners had some questions about it. One of the things is, even though I've just said it's very dense and complex, they said that, hey, this is plainer language than what we had before. It's a lot easier to understand. And there's still some questions going on. Aaron Thompson, who represents East Knox County on commission, is puzzled by the agricultural zones because East Knox County is a very agricultural area. But one of his questions is why do we have these zones that are called agricultural when they're basically residential and no farming's going on. Why don't we have a rural zone for those areas? And I don't know how deeply they'll take that under advisement, but they will. But
was there any sense of where particular sticking points could be? I mean, like when the city of Knoxville did their Recode Knoxville some years ago, a lot of the debate and discussion came down to a handful of issues which had to do with what kinds of density were going to be allowed in, established city neighborhoods, things like auxiliary dwelling units and so forth. Like, are there any things that are leaping out here that's going to be like, oh, these are going to be the things people will be mad about when it comes down to the final vote?
Strangely enough, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about density.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little surprising. Really the biggest sticking point is going to be zoning in agricultural areas. And they basically have two agricultural zones. One of them, they're kind of strangely named. One of them is basically a historical agricultural area where you're supposed to preserve this. Well, they are going to allow, or at least under this proposal, allow clustered housing in those areas and not in the regular agricultural zones. So, and Thompson had questions about that too, but I think that he and Kim Frazier both brought up agricultural zones and how they're being treated. I think that the the suburban kind of regular standard subdivision kind of developments, nobody really talked about those. They really weren't. Now they might as they look into it. But one of the things is there's a short amount of time and there's a lot to get into. And the other thing is these are just these zoning districts. They really, when you talk about subdivision regulations, the width of roads, density, those kinds of things, those are still going to be dribbled out over the next few months. So one of the questions that came up, and this has been an issue for the last several years, was the hillside protection. In the county, hillside protection is optional. It's required in the city, but this only applies in the county. And a lot of people are interested in it. They're going to treat it when they look at the stormwater regulations, which that's a big issue in almost any development in the county now. Is neighbors are always concerned about stormwater runoff and flooding and that sort of thing. So those kinds of things are still coming. So this was just kind of, okay, here's the basic zoning thing, but it's still a lot and a lot to digest, a lot for people to understand before they can really form an opinion about whether they like it or not. So, it's one of those things that is once it does become apparent and once it does become clearer, I think there will be a lot of people in the county who are going to be really paying attention and weighing in on this. And I don't know that it will be as run as smoothly as they need it to run. Orion said that they were on target to meet that basically August approval deadline. So, but but the public might have something to say about that. The another couple of things that happened, as I said earlier, two local boys done good, at least got noticed in the national media. Ashley Capps, the founder of Big Ears, the original founder of Bonnaroo, was recognized by Spin Magazine as one of the 26 most influential people in the music industry.
Yeah.
That was a pretty amazing list. And it's funny, this list of people, when you go look at it, most of us don't know any of them.
Right. Because it's the people behind the scene. I mean, it's not like Beyonce. It's
It's not Taylor Swift.
Right.
It might be, Taylor Swift's sound engineer.
Right.
Or choreographer, although that person was not in there. But yeah, I mean, these are people who run music companies, who are behind the scenes people, but who get things done, who make things happen. And while Spin, did talk about Bonnaroo and AC Entertainment when Capps owned it, they also noted, of course, Big Ears, which has really put Knoxville on the on the international stage of the international music stage. I mean, it is a truly remarkable, I think, thing that's happened there. In that we were Knoxvillians talk about being the cradle of country music, and it's becoming just this showcase for international music, all kinds of genres, all because of Big Ears and Capps' vision. And so he was named to this list of 26 people. It's funny. One of the things that was interesting was the head of Live Nation, the ticketing and concert promoting behemoth, was in there, and also listed was the U.S. attorney who is suing Live Nation for being a monopoly. So I mean, they didn't take sides on that one. They looked at both of them.
Well, and Live Nation is the company that also bought Ashley's former company, AC Entertainment, and Bonnaroo. Live Nation runs Bonnaroo now. Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's just obviously it's a great honor for Ashley, who I've known for decades. Like many people in Knoxville have known Ashley for decades, because he has been around doing things here for well more than 40 years. Going, and there's a real continuity to his career. Obviously, some of the acts who he first booked at Ella Garou's, his kind of legendary club in the old city back in the late 80s, early 90s, are like, he has brought some of them back to play at Big Ears. Like, he has always been kind of pursuing the same thing, which is wanting to showcase music that he loves for audiences, and especially audiences in Knoxville in particular. I mean, Knoxville is where he graduated from the University of Tennessee with a degree in philosophy, and had a show on WUOT. He's always had a real presence here, and those of us who live in Knoxville and are music fans just have an awful lot to thank him for.
Oh yeah, and it's he keeps. One of the things about Big Ears that is really interesting is how he keeps expanding the definition of venue. You think about music in downtown Knoxville, and downtown Knoxville is where Big Ears takes place. It's very walkable. that you think, okay, Bijou Theater, Tennessee Theater, yeah. Mill and Mine now, yeah. But they also are using the churches, using smaller bars and things like that. And this year they're going to be using the old Greyhound bus station. It's going to be a venue. Be interesting to see what they do with that, because David Dewhurst bought it, hasn't done anything, hasn't announced what he's going to end up doing with it. But at least for a weekend in March, it's going to be a music venue. But it's a very, very creative festival, and one that, again, has brought a lot of international music attention to Knoxville, which is a city that would not have otherwise been on anybody's radar, prior to Big Ears. Now, also last week, Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs was the subject of an article in the National Review. Jesse, I have not actually read that article, but you have. So what's
and of course
deal?
People probably know what National Review is. It's the kind of hallowed journal of American conservative thought, founded by William F. Buckley, and Jacobs. It's just it's a friendly profile of Jacobs under the kind of entertaining headline, "The Devil's Favorite Libertarian." And the devil's part of that is a reference to Jacobs' WWE wrestling character Kane, who has a demonic backstory. He comes from hell. And the libertarian part, of course, is that's how Jacobs has always identified himself in a very particular. His libertarianism is kind of especially economic. He's very anti-tax. It does not seemingly extend to things like reproductive rights, or, I haven't heard him advocate for.
As the token libertarian on the show, I don't like to see that nomenclature used with his name. I don't feel like he is accurate to the grander philosophy of libertarians. Although that is not uncommon that a lot of people who on the right will identify with libertarianism in parts.
Yeah. They pick and choose which parts of libertarianism.
And run with that. And so, again, that's a personal note on my end, because I am I've often been described as, or self-described myself as a libertarian, but I wouldn't compare myself to Jacobs as a libertarian.
Right. Yes. Well, I haven't heard him advocate for like legalizing marijuana. I don't actually know how he feels about that, but certainly it's not part of his public persona or anything. And he's like pro-guns for sure and anti-taxes. But regardless, what was interesting to me about this article, and it's worth reading. You can find it online. It's not too long. If you're at all familiar with Jacobs, which most of us in Knox County are, he's been mayor for the last 8 years, you're not going to learn anything new about him. It just kind of talks about him in broad strokes. But it's clearly written with the sense that this is a guy with a political future. And the article kind of ends by speculating that he may in the near future have a statewide platform. And of course, Jacobs was talked about and was assumed to be planning a run for governor this year, until about a year ago, Senator Marsha Blackburn threw her hat in that ring, and Jacobs immediately stepped back from it and endorsed Blackburn. But there is still a lot of speculation about his future. He leaves office at the end of August, as we said, and one thing that has been certainly he hasn't said a lot about, but lots of other people have talked about, is the possibility that if Blackburn does win her race for governor this year, which seems likely, then her Senate seat will be open, and there would be an appointment to fill it ahead of then an election for that seat. And so there is a possibility that Jacobs could move to a statewide position of senator in that case, and really have a national platform, which honestly, I think Jacobs would really love a national platform. He does like to kind of hold forth on political philosophy. I think that a lot of the day-to-day work of county mayor, which it's certainly done. He goes to all the ribbon cuttings and the things that you show up for. But I don't think that's where his kind of like political passion is. He is interested in political ideas and ideology, and having the position as a senator, of course, lets you expand,
You can indulge in that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's fair to say that, especially over the last couple of years, he has been much more active on national scene stuff.
Oh, for sure.
And so
he shows up on Fox
with the
News
governor's
and
thing
News
happening.
Nation and like all of those places.
And so I think it's the trajectory of what he wants. It's the direction he wants to be going. And a nice article in the National Review would put him on stage for other people on the national picture to help kind of solidify a national
and to take him
presence for
seriously, because if people outside Tennessee or people who don't like watch Fox News that much or whatever, if they know anything about him, it's his wrestling career.
Right.
And that is not the easiest, having a former career as a pro wrestler is not the easiest way to get people to take you seriously on the political stage. So yeah, that was kind of my takeaway from the article, the timing of it, the placement of it. It was it wasn't an endorsement per se from National Review. They weren't like saying this guy should be senator or this guy should be president or anything. But they were saying this is a guy worth paying attention to and taking seriously, and that can only help him for sure.
From their perspective, it's not a character we would fight against,
right?
If something of this nature started moving that direction.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, all right. Well, that's about all we're going to talk about from last week. Next week, or this week, we've got quite a few things going on. The school board is meeting this week on Monday. They've got a special called meeting that was going to be held last week, but the concerns about the storm made them postpone it. But it's on about asking the Secretary of Education or Commissioner of Education in Tennessee to weigh in on Wilberforce Academy's charter school application. And we've talked about this before. Wilberforce would be as an overtly religious school, which you can't.
Christian, an overtly Christian school.
Overtly Christian school. And you can't, in Tennessee, charter schools can't be religious. So,
in Tennessee and across the country, because that is perceived as being a violation of existing precedent on separation of church and state.
That's true. Although there are some who want to ignore that,
or overturn it entirely.
Tennessee's Attorney General John Scometti is one of them. He's already written about this topic.
It's the reverse separation of church and state argument, which is really interesting to try to wrap your head around.
Right. It's basically saying that if that it's discriminatory for the government to not support a religious organization, rather than saying it's a violation of the Establishment Clause for government to support a religious organization.
The Wilberforce basically said, "Hey, we're going to apply to be a charter school." Then they sued because
5 days later.
Almost immediately, filed a lawsuit against Knox County schools, and Knox County Schools the school board hasn't even ruled on it.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything.
Right. And Wilberforce's case is that, we can't even actually apply in good faith. That's not a pun, but I guess it could be, because of this state law. And therefore, we're going to go ahead and file suit now without trying to go through the full application process.
Right. And what the school board is doing, and it's actually kind of clever, is they're asking the education commissioner to say yay or nay, can they apply? And
right. And
that
we
takes
should be
the onus,
clear.
that takes the onus off the school system, and they can go to court and say, hey, we didn't deny this. the state of Tennessee denied it.
Yeah, and this is only about whether they can apply. Like, they're not asking the Commissioner of Education to rule on should we grant this charter, because we're not even to that point yet. In order to be granted a charter, an applicant has to fill out a fairly detailed and well-documented application about their programming, their funding, their governance. Like, there's a whole lot that they have to put together. And they haven't, Wilberforce has not done that. They certainly haven't submitted anything like that at this point. And so this is just, the school board is in a basically impossible position right now, because they are obliged to follow state law. They cannot not follow state law. State law says you cannot even apply for a school charter if you're an overtly religious organization. So the school board cannot consider that under state law. But at the same time, the state attorney general, who is the chief legal officer of the state, has issued a non-binding opinion that he thinks that state law, even though it's on the books, is unconstitutional. And so the school board then would have to go to court to try to defend a state law that the state's own attorney general is saying is unconstitutional. And so, what the school board is doing is kicking or I guess we'll see how they vote on Monday, but the resolution would kick this up to Education Commissioner Lizette Reynolds to say, okay, do you at the state level want to grant a waiver so they can apply, so we can consider the application?
Yeah. Like I said, it puts the onus on the state, and they could go into court if there's a ruling one way or the other from the state. They can go into court and say, hey, this is a state matter, it's not ours. Dismiss this lawsuit. And I can't think of a judge who wouldn't, because they wouldn't really, they don't really, at that juncture, would not have made any kind of decision one way or the other about Wilberforce.
And on the flip side, if Reynolds did grant the waiver, then they could move to dismiss the lawsuit and say, well, they don't have grounds for the lawsuit because they're allowed to go ahead and apply. Yeah. If that happens, I think that one interesting wrinkle here is that I guess we'll see if anybody from Wilberforce shows up to talk about this on Monday. I wonder if Wilberforce actually wants this waiver, because the assumption has been from the beginning that this is not actually about trying to open. I do think in the long run, it's about trying to open this school. What they want to do is get a case to the Supreme Court. But to get a case to the Supreme Court, they have to be denied the ability to do this. If the state says they can apply, then that would actually push the responsibility back on Wilberforce to put together an actual application that the school board could consider on its merits. And I don't know that's what Wilberforce is even looking to do right now. I think they want to get to the Supreme Court as quick as they can. And so if they're actually allowed to proceed, I think that is going to complicate their legal trajectory.
Absolutely. So anyway, the school board is going to have a special called meeting at 3:30 on Monday at the Summer Place boardroom where they tend to meet. It'll be a brief meeting. I'm sure we've probably talked about Wilberforce longer than they will on Monday. It'll probably be very brief. But then they'll also have a work session at 5 on Monday, and then 5 on Thursday. They're having their monthly voting meeting. The city council meets Tuesday at 6 at the main assembly room of the city county building. Very light agenda. At this point, it doesn't look like that too may be a very brief meeting, just because there's not a whole lot on the agenda. The only thing that would probably take any amount of time is the West Hills Community Association is still fighting decisions in favor of this townhouse development at the very fringes of the neighborhood, and they've been fighting. They fought in planning commission. They fought in city council. The builder got variance. They're fighting the variance. So there's going to be that, and that discussion, that appeal is going to be heard by City Council. Other than that, there doesn't appear to be anything very controversial at all on the agenda. And then on Friday, the UT Knoxville Advisory Board is meeting at the Tickle Engineering Building. They meet a couple of times a year to they basically advise the Chancellor Donnie Plowman on things they can approve, kind of the campus's budget proposals and things like that, and for the board of before they goes to the Board of Trustees. So anyway, they're going to meet on Friday at Tickle Engineering Building, and haven't seen the agenda, so I don't know exactly what they're going to be talking about, but probably construction projects. I think that's a good bet with them. Anyway, we'll check in with them though, and let you know what they're going to be doing. As said at the outset, all of these things are the things that we cover at Compass, and you can go to CompassKnox.com, subscribe there, and we'll report on these things and lots more. This is just the few tidbits we decided to talk about this week. So, Jesse, thanks for being here again.
Always happy to.
Yeah, and Seth, Lord Seth, thank you.
Mark your calendars, everybody. April 14th, I am hosting a debate of our Knox County mayoral candidates. I've got 2 of the 3 confirmed. I'm in discussion with the campaign of the third one to get them confirmed officially, yay or nay at least. And I will let everybody know if that yay is a yay or nay when I know it. But it is happening. I got all the parts and pieces in place, and now it's time to pull it off. So if you got nothing better to do, well, you shouldn't have anything better to do. April 14th, just go ahead and mark your calendars. More details to come later.
All right. Well, thanks, Seth. Thanks for your work. Thanks also to Will Wright for our music. And we will be back next week with another installment of Compass Points.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.